Well, welcome everyone, and good afternoon. Beautiful day for a wedding, right? Think more than that, a beautiful place, a place where Darryl Ann and Joe have decided to call home and to start their new adventure together. So, a very fitting place indeed. My name's Eric Sater. I know most of you don't know who I am, but I'm our officiant. I have known Joe for over 25 years now, so quite a bit of time. I grew up on Robin Road with him in Salina, did Cub Scouts, elementary school, middle school, and high school, so we know each other pretty well. Darryl Ann, I admit, I have not known nearly as long, but the interactions I've had have been fantastic. And to poke fun at ourselves a little bit, I suppose our friendship group in high school probably was not best known for being successfully romantically inclined. So, it is a day of great celebration indeed. So beyond that, a few housekeeping tips before we start. Joe and Darryl Ann, I'm sure everyone knows by now, are professional photographers, so they spend over 40 days a year at weddings like this. But when they do so, they are stuck behind a viewfinder. So they want you to enjoy this experience in the unique way they can today. So please, no cell phones, no cameras, no virtual reality headsets, or other non-life-saving devices. All right, and lastly, before we start, most of you, or at least a good handful of you, have received rose petals or flower petals of some sort. So those, I'm sure you've been to weddings before, upon the exit of our new bride and groom can be thrown up in the air in great celebration. So don't use them quite yet. That being said, I think we have some music that some of you might be able to relate to this beautiful environment around us. And I think we can get started. Let me make her open this. Who supports this woman in marriage to this man? Please say we do.
We do.
And who supports this man in marriage to this woman? Please say I do. You may be seated. So, Joe, Darryl Ann, a little different this time around, I'm sure. So marriage, as you know, is about commitment to one another. As you know, though, you have probably shown greater commitment than many in that you've already moved yourself across the United States out to this cabin in the woods. So that is true. Marriage is indeed commitment to each other, but it goes beyond that. It is commitment to the wider world around you. To those loved ones who are here today, after this marriage, you will hold yourselves out as a couple. So, along that vein, I know the two of you have chosen to embark on a ring-warming ceremony as part of this ceremony. So we should have some rings around. And these rings will be passed around over the course of the next few minutes. And as they're passed around in symbolism of this wider commitment of this entire community and this entire world, I want you to think about Darryl Ann and Joe as you hold these rings. Memories you've had of them in the past, hopes, prayers, well wishes for the future, and be part of this ceremony that they want you to be part of. Joe and Darryl Ann, you also have chosen to be in this beautiful environment that I know you relate to quite well. Beyond these trees, although it's hard to see, I know we are amongst the mountains. And those mountains are a great symbol of the love you have for one another. They have been around far before any of us and will be around far after. Those mountains, like all of us, are not impervious to erosion. Those small things in our relationships we have to be careful and watch. Those mountains, too, may deteriorate a little bit with time, as all of us tend to do as well. But for the most part, they are a stand-fast symbol, again, that lasts forever. So, Joe and Darryl Ann, as the world may around you change, you know nonetheless that the things you have fallen in love with one another doesn't change nearly as much. Those quirks, those personal traits you have for one another, those things you can have with you beyond this marriage. It is one of the few lasting and permanent symbols of relationships that continues to exist today. So, I guess we'll go ahead and move forward beyond too many words with a reading. And so let's have Darryl Ann's Aunt Elaine come up and share a few words.
They say they will love, comfort, honor each other to the end of their days. They say they will cherish each other and be faithful to each other always. They say they will do these things not just when they feel like it, but even for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, when they don't feel like it at all. In other words, the vows they make hardly could be more extravagant. They give away their freedom. They take on themselves each other's burdens. They bind their lives together. The question is, what do they get in return? They get each other in return. There will always be the other to talk to listen to. There is still someone to get through the night with and to wake into the new day beside. If they have children, they can give them, as well as each other, roots and wings. If they don't have children, they can become each other's child. They both still have their lives apart as well as a life together. They both still have their separate ways to find. But a marriage made in heaven is one where a man and a woman become more richly themselves together than the chances are either of them could ever have managed to become alone.
I know we have another reading from Cousin Anna.
A soulmate is someone who has locks that fit our keys and keys to fit our locks. When we feel safe enough to open the locks, our truest selves step out and we can be completely and honestly who we are. We can be loved for who we are and not for who we're pretending to be. Each unveils the best part of the other. No matter what else goes wrong around us, with that one person we're safe in our own paradise. Our soulmate is someone who shares our deepest longing, our sense of direction. We're two balloons, and when together our direction's up, chances are we've found the right person. Our soulmate is the one who makes life come to life.
So Joe and Darryl Ann, I think you have already taught each other a lot, since we don't have too many opportunities to rib you a little bit. I know Joe, although has many amazing qualities, perhaps historically emotional intuitiveness was not necessarily one. So early on, if I'm not mistaken, Joe learned of your affections for him through a Google search, where he then found your Twitter feed and was able to learn a bit of your inclinations that way. So thank you for teaching him how to love, as I'm sure he has taught you as well. Beyond that, I guess we will continue moving toward marriage, as I'm sure you are ready and eager to do. I know that you, Darryl Ann, initially started this relationship a little bit in an odd way as Joe's photography assistant, and I'm sure many of the married folks in this audience now know that the shoe is probably about to be on the other foot. But in true partnership and true seriousness, you each have your strengths, your weaknesses, those things that make you special, and together, I'm sure you will succeed. So, I guess we will have to comply first with the laws of the state of Washington by making sure we have them together. Do you, Joseph Ryan Geske, and you, Darryl Ann Gerardi, come here before us today of your own free will to be married? If so,
we do.
Very good. Now I know Joe and Darryl Ann have shared some written vows. Well, will share some written vows that they have wrote for you. And very special, they have a secret vow for each other as well that no one, including themselves, has yet to hear.
I promise to always make you feel as loved as the dog, or whatever other furry creatures we have.
And I promise to include the dogs in our lives. I promise to try new foods with you at least once in a while.
And I promise to always let pizza be our backup plan. I promise to be your driver.
And I promise to be the best navigator that I can. I promise to never forget to say goodnight and I love you every single night of our lives for the rest of time.
And I promise to never forget to say goodnight and I love you. I promise to let you DIY something if you want to, instead of hiring someone or buying it.
And I promise to sometimes just let us throw money at a problem and let it be gone the easy way. I promise to take you horseback riding in every new location.
And I promise to get up before sunrise and stay up until the stars come out for you to photograph them. I promise to hike at your pace and enjoy the journey by your side instead of racing to the top.
And I promise to be a faithful hiking companion and always bring up the rear. I promise to never let our thirst for adventure run dry.
And I promise to never let our Netflix queue go empty knowing how important relaxing days are as well. I promise to push you to grow and try new things.
And I promise to be by your side and support you through the ways that we may change and throughout in our entire lives. I promise to put my stubbornness aside for you.
I promise to put my stubbornness aside for you. I promise to make room for your ideas.
And I promise to make room for your ideas. I promise to be your teammate.
I promise to be your teammate. I've always had an odd drive in my life to see new places and meet new people. That was the drive that ultimately sent me to Kansas. That and a misconception about cowboys. Where we met. Why Haley was even in a part of a group of photographers in Manhattan, Kansas, of all places, a group that you just so happen to be in as well, we'll never really know. I don't really believe in fate, but it's kind of hard not to. You can't deny, even though I may have tried at first, how quickly we fell in love. There was a level of comfort and safety that I felt with you. Even that time when it was too early to say the L word, and you thought I was asleep, so you tried it on for size. But I wasn't. And I heard you. It made me feel so warm inside, although it would take me much longer to say it back. So, because you're the most important person in my life, this is my ultimate vow. We've heard time and time again on summer Saturdays that love does not fail. It's not just a quality that love has. Love doesn't fail because failure means giving up. I will never let our love fail because I will not give up on us and what we have together and what we build together. I won't give up on you because I love you.
Well, I'm sure this won't be the first or the last time, but she definitely outshined me a little bit with those. Darryl Ann, loving you is a choice that I actively make every day of my life. The choice to be with you, the choice to make a life with you, the choice to run a business with you. Someday start a family with you, and the choice to spend the rest of my life with you. It's the best choice that I've ever made. It's no secret to anyone that I can be a little bit picky at times, and maybe even a little bit stubborn. But I promise you that no matter who we grow into as people, or as a family with just some fur babies, that I will always stand beside you as your best friend, your husband, and your partner in everything that we do. You, Darryl Ann, are the best choice that I have ever made, and I promise to never stop loving you.
Well, Darryl Ann, I know Joe isn't quite the Kansas cowboy you dreamed of, but I think you have done well. I think you both have come a long ways from the, I guess, potato farms of Maine and the wheat fields of Kansas. So hopefully the rings have made themselves. Oh, there they are. Yeah, kind of like the flowers. The rings have gotten around. And these rings, although beautiful as they are, were made of very simple and not so complex atoms and elements. But through that coordination, through the heat and the pressure that relationships also can be prone to, they have formed the beautiful rings we have today. I guess I need to untie them. And Joe, if we want to start with you, make sure we have this. And as you have said your vows, just repeat after me as you put your ring on Darryl Ann. Darryl Ann, I offer this ring to you.
Darryl Ann, I offer this ring to you
as a symbol of my love
as a symbol of my love
and of the vows I have just spoken.
and of the vows I have just spoken.
As this ring has no end,
As this ring has no end,
neither shall my love for you.
neither shall my love for you.
Success. Darryl Ann. Joe, I offer this ring to you
Joe, I offer this ring to you
as a symbol of my love
as a symbol of my love
and of the vows I have just spoken.
and of the vows I have
As this ring has no end,
As this ring has no end,
neither shall my love for you.
neither shall my love for you.
Darryl Ann, Joe, by the powers invested me somehow by the state of Washington, I am very pleased to pronounce you husband and wife. Enjoy your first kiss together.
No, I did.
No, everything came out so well. Eric.
So much.
Good job, Eric.
Yeah, that was amazing.
It turned out so perfect.
Oh no, that was awesome. And then it didn't help that we were all like, can't handle
I can lose it. I want to mess up well, you've been wearing
Yeah, I
this.
know.
When it comes off, I feel like you're missing something. All right.